Right now, as you watch this video, the world around you doesn't exist. Not the way you think it does. Everything you see, hear, feel, every single thing you believe is real is a story your brain invented about 300 milliseconds ago. You are not living in reality. You are living in memory. And the strangest part, your brain knows this and it hides it from you on purpose. In 1998, a neuroscientist named David Eagleman ran an experiment. He dropped people off tall buildings, not to kill them, but to measure something that had been bothering him for years. The subjects wore special watches that flickered numbers too fast for the human eye to read at normal speed. The idea was simple. If time perception changes during freefall, if your brain somehow slows down under mortal terror, then mid-fall, you'd be able to read the numbers. None of them could read the numbers, not one. What Eagleman found instead was far more disturbing. Their brains hadn't slowed time at all. They had rewritten it afterward. The subjects remembered the fall as slow motion. But while it was happening, they were just falling. Your brain doesn't record reality. It reconstructs it after the fact, every single time. And here's what nobody tells you about that. If your brain rewrites the past in real time, what exactly are you experiencing right now? There's a gap, a small, horrifying gap between the moment something happens in the physical world and the moment you become aware of it. It's called the neural delay, and it's roughly 300 to 500 milliseconds long, half a second. That doesn't sound like much. Until you realize at that gap, your brain has already decided what you'll perceive, and it backfills the sensation, stamps it with a timestamp that says, this happened now. It didn't happen now. It already happened. You just weren't there for it. Benjamin Libet discovered something in the 1980s that the scientific community has been quietly uncomfortable with ever since. He found that the brain initiates voluntary movement, the electrical decision to act a full half second before the person becomes consciously aware they decided to move, which means the choice happened before you chose it. The action began before yourself showed up to take credit. But that wasn't the worst part. Your brain doesn't receive reality, it renders it, like a video game engine, drawing only what you're looking at, hiding everything else behind a curtain of assumption. Right now, you have a blind spot in each eye, a patch of your visual field where there are no photoreceptors at all, a hole in reality, and you've never once noticed it because your brain fills it in. It invents what should be there based on what's nearby. And then it serves that invention to you as fact. You have been looking at a fabricated world your entire life and calling it seeing. This isn't just visual. Memory works the same way. Every time you recall something, a childhood birthday, a person's face, a moment of joy or grief, you're not playing back a recording. You're reconstructing it, piece by piece, filling the gaps with whatever fits the narrative your brain prefers. And each time you remember something, you subtly change it. The act of remembering is also an act of editing. Elizabeth Loftus spent decades proving this. She implanted false memories in thousands of people, got them to clearly, emotionally recall events that never happened. Being lost in a mall as a child, seeing a clown at a party, a car accident that occurred on a road they never drove. They didn't lie. They genuinely remembered. The memory was real to them, the event was not. This is where everything changes. But erasure goes deeper than memory. Your brain is constantly, actively deciding what not to show you. There's a process called change blindness. In study after study, researchers swap entire features of a scene, a person's shirt, a building in the background, the face of someone you're mid-conversation with, and most people notice nothing. Not because they're stupid, because their brain decided those details weren't important and quietly deleted them before they reached consciousness. In one famous experiment, a researcher behind a desk would briefly duck below, then rise up as a completely different person. Different height, different hair, different clothes, and subjects kept talking, uninterrupted, as if nothing had changed. They weren't blind, they weren't distracted, their brains had made a decision. This is irrelevant to your current goal. And so reality was quietly updated. The version they saw before, erased. The new version accepted as continuous. No seam, no flicker, no alarm. This is a feature, not a bug. The brain must delete to survive. If you processed every photon, every sound wave, every temperature fluctuation in your environment simultaneously, you'd collapse. The deletion is what makes action possible. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. It's not random. The brain doesn't delete arbitrarily. It deletes according to your expectations, your beliefs, your emotional history, your fears. Your brain doesn't show you what's there. It shows you what you were already looking for. And this is the moment it stops being a neuroscience lecture and starts being something else entirely. Think about someone you've had a long conflict with, a parent, a partner, a colleague who made your life difficult. Now, ask yourself honestly, how much of your perception of them was constructed? How many of their actions did your brain classify before they happened, based on a pattern you'd already decided was true? How much of your anger, your love, your certainty was your brain finishing their sentence before they spoke it? The philosopher Thomas Metzinger calls it the ego tunnel. The self, he argues, is not a thing in the world. It's a model, a constantly updated simulation your brain runs, just like it runs a simulation of the room around you. You are not perceiving reality. You are perceiving the brain's best guess about reality, filtered through every wound, every loss, every assumption you've ever formed. And you experience that guess as truth. As you, this isn't abstract. This is why two people can witness the exact same event and walk away with opposite memories of it. Not because one of them is lying, because they were both living inside different models. Different simulations, running side by side, rendering different versions of the same moment. Neither one was real. Both of them were certain. Every argument you've ever had about what really happened was two brains defending their private fictions. And if you think you're immune to this, that your perceptions are different, more accurate, more grounded, that feeling of certainty, that's the most convincing hallucination of all. The brain doesn't alert you when it's confabulating. It doesn't wave a flag when it's filling in the gaps. It delivers the fiction with the same weight, the same texture, the same emotional authority as anything real. You can't feel the seams. So what do you do with this? What do you do when the instrument you use to understand reality is the same instrument generating your delusions? Some people find this terrifying, and it is, but there's something else here. Something that gets buried when we focus only on the horror of it. If your brain is constantly constructing, then you are not a passive receiver of a fixed world. You are an active participant in building the one you inhabit. The story you tell yourself about who people are, what you're capable of, what you deserve, that story has weight. It has consequences. It shapes what your brain decides to render visible and what it quietly deletes. There is research showing that people who believe they are fundamentally unlucky are statistically worse at noticing opportunity, even when it's literally placed in front of them. One study hid a large sum of cash on the ground along a route, then had lucky and unlucky self-identified people walk it. The lucky ones found the money at 4 times the rate of the others. Not because fortune favored them, because their brains were calibrated to see possibility. The others had already decided the path held nothing for them, so their brains obliged and deleted the money. The world you see is the world you've learned to see, not by choice, not by conspiracy. By the slow accumulation of everything that ever happened to you and the story your brain built around it to keep you safe, that story is not reality. But it is the only reality you have ever known, and it is, in the most unsettling sense possible, entirely your own creation. You came into this video thinking the brain was a receiver, something that picks up reality the way a radio picks up a signal. But it isn't a receiver, it's a writer. It has always been a writer, and every single moment of your conscious life has been its draft. The real question, the one that will follow you now, long after you've closed this tab and returned to what you call your day, isn't whether your brain erases reality. It's this. If your brain has been quietly editing the world your entire life, which parts of your story did it write for your survival? And which parts did it write against you? And more frightening still, would you even be able to tell the difference?